his example is not unique. In fact, everyone that enters the rental arbitrage game quickly realizes it is not a long-term play.
And so the point is that now we're seeing a lot of bachelor parties, bachelorette parties, people coming to enjoy Miami again. It's not so much the digital nomads anymore or people working from home, but it's actually groups. We're getting a ton of groups now, um, which then caused us to kind of look at how we can stand out, right? Yeah. So one of the things, the moment that we started to see a lot of groups, come in, primarily women, right? The bachelorette parties have been huge, and so it's a huge market in Miami and South Florida, and so
And although a lot of people don't like that, I don't mind it because I like the competition. It makes me better. It makes my company better. Because if we're not better, we're not going to survive, right? All right, welcome back, my beautiful people. I am super excited about today's episode. I have a guest that I met via social media. If you guys know, if you're in business, I highly recommend you guys always use social media to grow your business. But I met him through social media. And when I met him, he was just starting out in the short-term rental game. And I'm bringing him on because I firmly believe you're going to learn something. You're going to get inspired by Matthew for some of the stuff that he's doing. And without further ado, Matthew, tell us who you are and what you're about.
yeah, no, excited to be on. Thank you so much. Yeah, so Matthew Mantilla, I founded Tilla Stays, which actually comes from my last name, Mantilla, and so my wife and I we've been doing this for since 2019. Um, like you said something really important is to get on social media. Personally, I'm someone who not necessarily like to be on social media as much, but took it really serious. We've done some great things that I'm sure we'll share today. But yeah, we've been managing properties now full time. I would say maybe 2 to 3 years now. Before that, we were kind of starting off with rental arbitrage. That's when I met you, and then we completely changed everything, have new process in place, and started managing properties full time. Yeah,
Awesome. Yeah, I still remember that conversation
yeah,
when he brought up the subject of rental arbitrage. And those that follow my channel, I'm not a big fan of rental arbitrage. I don't
yeah.
think it's a viable tool. I'm going to have Matthew explain what his initial experience with rental arbitrage was in a second. Um, but going into when you first started, tell us what were some of the challenges that you were facing in the beginning.
Yeah, so just getting started off. I mean, I was recently married. I just had my first son, which I have three now,
Oh,
three boys. Yeah, thank you. Just had one a month ago.
good.
Third one.
Wow.
Yeah, man. And so yeah, some of the challenges. I mean, we were pretty tight on cash, and so we didn't have much to get started with, which is probably why we started the rental arbitrage route. But we quickly found out it wasn't really for us. The entire model is kind of based off the management company of the properties that you're renting from, right? And so we scaled pretty quickly. We got to 7 units in downtown Fort Lauderdale and 7 apartments in total. And what ended up happening is, COVID hit, right? We had cancellations just like everyone, but then we grew, right? We saw a big bounce back in South Florida. We recovered fairly quickly. But what ended up happening is the owners of the communities that we're in, the builders would sell, right? And they would have a completely new management company come in. And, even though we had a great relationship with the prior one, not so much the new one. And the new one said, hey, we're starting fresh. You know, we're getting rid of the corporate leases. At renewal, we're just not going to renew you. And I'm stuck with 5, 6, apartments in one community that now I have to go and find and refurnish another one, reestablish another relationship. And, it wasn't something that we felt was sustainable long term, and by accident, we got into management. A friend of a friend, said, hey, I know someone that can help you out with your property. Um, I honestly didn't hear of anyone doing it at the time. I wasn't really connected with anyone, which was probably a big mistake. And I know later on we'll talk about maybe some tips, for people getting started. But um, we started off managing that way by accident, and then we gave up on the rental arbitrage. We let them go, the leases, and we started over with managing, and we took off from there.
Yeah, awesome. Great, great. And again, for those that follow my channel, I've done a lot of videos on rental arbitrage. So I'm not going to dive deep into rental arbitrage in this episode because I want to dig deep, and we're going to spend a lot of time talking about Matthew's processes and procedures and the market in Miami. But just a quick overview, his example is not unique. In
Yeah.
fact, everyone that enters the rental arbitrage game quickly realizes it is not a long-term play. It is for people that want to get into the industry and to figure out whether they like it or not. Yeah, go ahead and do it. Do it, but plan for it only being for a short amount of time, maybe 1 or 2 years at the most. But then focus on whether or not you're going to be an investor in short-term rentals, whether you're going to be a property manager like Matthew is, like our company, or a combination of thereof. And rental arbitrage should be maybe less than 10% of your portfolio. So let's move on from that topic, unless you wanted to add something else.
No, no, no. That's good advice, man. Yeah.
Okay, so let's let's just tell the audience. And currently, what markets are you in?
Yeah, so we have some properties that we manage in Wilton Manor. So we're all in South Florida. Wilton Manor, Fort Lauderdale, 10, 15 minutes from the beach. And then in Miami, so we have in Shenandoah, we have a couple, not too far from Miami Beach. But yeah, that's currently where we're at.
Okay, cool. And you're currently living where?
Oh yeah, so I used to live in South Florida. That's where we met, right? That's where we met up. But yeah, we recently moved to Orlando, so Central Florida. My wife and I and our three kids, and so yeah, we've been here for a couple years. We manage everything from here, everything remote, practically. I mean, part of it is obviously keeping an eye on the properties and going to visit. So I try to go, once a month just to make sure that everything's okay, that our managers are doing a good job, the cleaners as well, the upkeep of the properties. But with all the systems we have in place, the technology we use, it's made it pretty simple to do it remotely. And so yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Again, for those that follow my channel, you guys know that I am all over the world, and I'm getting ready to leave today. In fact, I'm going to be heading over to Alabama on one of our projects in Alabama, to my project in Georgia, and then we're shooting over to Alaska. We're actually going to be doing some stuff on the northwest side of the U.S., Canada, and then going into Alaska. And then we're gonna all of October we're gonna be in Europe, specifically Belgium, Amsterdam, the Netherlands. The city of Amsterdam and that area there, because we're gonna be doing some projects there. But the point here is that once you have your systems and processes in place, you can do this job from anywhere. And this is why I love being in this business, in this industry, because it has allowed me to not only make a living, but it also allowed me to enjoy what my passion is, which is travel. So,
Yeah.
so very cool. So we're going to dive into that and how you were able to do that. So, but before we go into your processes and procedures, tell us how the market is looking, and tell us what's the difference between the market today versus when you first started back in 2019.
Yeah, huge difference. Yeah, when we first started, um, COVID. I mean, Airbnb was lifting off a lot. 2019. It was great. We started off, like I said, we started off running, and immediately we scaled pretty quickly because it was great, right? Then COVID hit, right? Had a lot of cancellations. I think I lost. It was like 20,000. We were fairly small, but 20,000 in cancellations. But we bounced back pretty quickly. Florida, was having a lot of travel nurses come in, so we were hosting them. Um, And then we had a lot of, digital nomads. Miami, the mayor did a great job with bringing in tech companies, making it a tech city. And so a lot of these people were flying in and out just on business. And so, we took advantage of that. And so that was a good deal. And then now we've just seen, at least in Miami, we've seen a lot of people traveling, obviously, because of how the city has progressed, how it's gaining traction with travelers. Wynwood is getting revamped. And so many cities there, the food, districts, and so the point is that now we're seeing a lot of bachelor parties, bachelorette parties, people coming to enjoy Miami again. It's not so much the digital nomads anymore, or people working from home, but it's actually groups. We're getting a ton of groups now, um, which then caused us to kind of look at how we can stand out, right, from other operators, or stand out from other hosts, right? And so it kind of opened up our eyes, seeing that the groups that are coming in now and what they're looking for, and that kind of plays into our social media marketing and the ads that we're putting out and all of that. But yeah, that's kind of what we're seeing now, at least in Miami.
So let's dive deep into some of the stuff you just said. So, for example, let's talk about some of the trends. You're talking about groups, and that you realize that there was an area that you were missing. So, what specific trend, or what specifically about groups that you're doing now that you weren't doing before?
Yeah, so one of the things, the moment that we started to see a lot of groups, come in, primarily women, right? The bachelorette parties have been huge, and so it's a huge market in Miami and South Florida. And so what we ended up doing is we ended up partnering with companies in South Florida that can cater to these groups, right? Whether it's yacht companies, they're renting out boats, they're taking a whole day to go out on the sea, fishing, or just going out on Key Biscayne. We partner with a local company in South Florida that can pre-stock fridge, right? So these people would pay, just like they would on Uber Eats or DoorDash or whatever service, right? Um, and to pre-stock their fridge. We have a good relationship with this company. We give them access to our houses. They know, check-in times, check-out times, and they'll go and deliver, at the same price that they're getting it elsewhere. The difference is that this is more personalized. Instead of dropping it off at a door, they'll go inside and actually put it in the fridge, right? Which people love. Groups love it because nobody wants to come to Miami and then go spend 2 to 3 hours in a rest, in Publix or Walmart, shopping, to waste a day. And so that's been a huge game changer. We're partnering with people, especially for the properties by the beach. We're looking for people that are helping us out with like golf carts and things like that, since they could just, it's a 1-2 minute drive to the beach. Um, and so, yeah, we've done things like that. I mean, we partner with somebody in Fort Lauderdale that can decorate. I know, especially people that host. One of the things they try to stay away from is parties, right? You kind of try to say, I don't want any parties at my house, no gatherings. I've seen a lot of hosts put extensive um, verbiage in their listings on how we don't cater to parties, no large groups, no this, no that. We've kind of worked the opposite way, and we've kind of welcomed them. And so for that reason, we've seen that when we kind of have that attitude of being like, hey, we would love to have you over for such a beautiful celebration of your 30th birthday or your 50th or whatever. In turn, we've seen that respectful guests have come in, right? We haven't dealt with people partying hard or things like that. And so I think because we've been open to it, we've attracted respectful people, right? That really just want to gather with their family, and we've helped them out with decorating, right? Do you want a garland? Do you want a sign that says happy birthday? Do you want? And so we've added those things on to hosting, right? And so it's done a great job.
Listen, I got to applaud you on several parts of what you just said, because number one, I applaud you for having the courage to even go that route, right?
Yeah,
Because, like you said, most people are shying away from that. Um, and then number two, what I applaud you on is, look, I preach today, and you kind of hit on it, but I want to dig deep on it. Is separating yourself from others. That's a big one. You are
Yeah,
probably one of the only companies that I'm familiar with that encourages gatherings, encourages people to come in, spend time on your property, celebrate their milestone, 50th birthday, bachelorette party, whatever it is. That's huge, and it's a huge market. Again, I applaud you for because in today's one of the biggest things that I've learned in this industry is how quickly it evolves. It changes constantly. And today, unlike when you started and way before, because I started way earlier than everyone else.
yeah,
The market, especially in South Florida, is oversaturated. And although a lot of people don't like that, I don't mind it because I like the competition. It makes me better. It makes my company
yeah.
better. Because if we're not better, we're not going to survive, right? So the fact that you understood that and realized, hey, I have to stand out. And one of the ways I'm going to stand out is by catering to this particular demographic of people. Phenomenal. I applaud you, and I encourage those out there
Thank you.
that if you're starting a short-term rental company, that you remember that you have to, without a doubt, have to look outside of the box, and you need to figure out ways for you to stand out. So great, great, great job there. Anything
Thank
else you
you.
want to add before I move on to the next topic?
No, yeah, I think it's important for people to understand that you need to adapt, right? I mean, you need to see what the market is doing, and talk to other operators and see what's happening in the trends and stay up to date with your city, right? I mean, although I don't live there, right, I'm still up to date with what's happening in South Florida, right? The events, people coming to town, events that are being added, new venues, all those things really, really count.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, so now we're going to go into the meat and potatoes of running a business, right?
Yeah,
So the first thing I want to talk about is that, as you and I know, running a short-term rental management company with multiple listing and the more listings, the you know may, can get very chaotic and difficult. So tell me what like walk us through your day and what your how you guys are able to manage these multiple listings in multiple areas and being remote.
yeah. So tech is a huge part of it, right? Having a right team is huge. I mean, I know people can spend years in trying to build out a team and their tech stack. And so, by the grace of God, we have a good team in place in South Florida. We're a family-run business, and so primarily people that we work with are family, and so they've done a great job. They take care of the houses just like we would, which has been great. And then tech-wise, I mean, we just switched over. Actually, we were using Guesty for managing like our PMS, and so all our calendars and everything. And so we just switched over to HostAway that we're using now. And probably the biggest game changer for us, at least, was managing the financials, right? That's a huge part of managing properties, right? And dealing with owners and partners. And so, we're extremely transparent. And I would recommend that anyone that gets into this management, um, just in your mind, just understand that you should be transparent with what you're doing, right? That's how you build trust with people. That's how you build trust with owners and partners. Um, and so we recently connected with a company. It's called Top Key. And so Top Key is kind of like a banking system where we have a line of credit with them, and they manage our transactions. But once transactions are made, um, they're automatically uploaded to that specific property. And so it takes a lot of load off of our bookkeeper, right? And we could use it for different things, right? And so it just makes it easier financially to do these reports for these owners so that they can see an up to date and an exact picture of what they're making per month, right? And so that does a lot of things, right? I mean, internally, um, that's it's good because at least as an owner, right, as an investor, if you look at it from an investor's eyes, right, if you can tell the projected amount to the dollar that you're making, and you say, and you, for example, Fernando, and you say, hey, I know this month I'm making, 10,000 or 11,000 or whatever. And for the next couple months, that's what we're projected to make because that's the reservations that we have. Then, I'm sure Fernando would probably make a decision and say, hey, I want another one. Why can't I buy another property? If I know this is what we're going to make. And so, it's not only alleviates some of the stress of reporting for us, but it also helps the owners that we work with make educated decisions for their own portfolio, right? What they want to do with their life, they're investing in. That's how we've gotten some of them to eventually purchase another property and give it to us, for us to manage. And so that's been a huge game changer for us, Top Key. Aside from that, our locks, obviously are all automated. The moment someone comes in and books, whether it's direct or any platform, the code is generated, specific times for that code. It's automatically sent to them. We have that all automated, which at first, when you first start off, we were just doing it ourselves. And then what would happen is, and I know, I guess, you got to find a balance, right? Because, you could say, oh, at first I want to save money, but you run into issues, right? You run into, what if you forget and the guest has a bad experience checking in? That's worse than you losing out on a couple of dollars,
Yeah.
Because you get dinged on that, right? And you can respond quickly, but they're always going to remember I had an issue checking in. And so, you kind of want to eliminate those things, right? And so, yes, you can start off trying to do it yourself, but we found that I would always forget, because I'm thinking about other things, or I put the wrong code, or I send the wrong code, or and so that's it's a small fee, but we use a company called Jervis. They've been great. Never had an issue with them. They've always done a great job, and so yeah, and then we used HostAway for our calendar, our maintenance primarily. That's why we switched to HostAway, because they can manage our maintenance tickets, which is a huge thing when you manage property. That's probably the bulk, at least, of the work that we do, is keeping up with these properties. I mean, you can have this gorgeous property, which we do. We have a little bit of everything, right? We have small units all the way to $3 to $4 million homes on the water, and the biggest thing that you should focus on would be maintenance. You want to keep these properties in perfect condition, right? Not only because of guests, but for your owners, your partners, right? You want to keep their investment happy. And my wife and I, we have a background in insurance, and so our first thought in everything is the liability of something, right? You don't want a guest to go in there and have an issue with liability. A tile is broken, something's not working correctly. The water heater set to such a high temperature can burn them. All these little things you should worry about, not only for the guest's sake, but the owner's sake of the property, so yeah, that's kind of, some of the tech stack that we use in our process a little bit. And
Let me dive. Let's dive a little deeper into your tech side. Let's just break it down. You don't have to go into
yeah,
detail of each one, but let's talk about. So you talked about your PMS, which is now HostAway, right?
HostAway, yeah.
Okay, so what? And you briefly touched on it, but because Guesty is a very popular
Yeah.
and well-known PMS system, and but like you, I'm not a fan of Guesty.
Yeah.
Nothing against the company. I just think that there's cheaper, better options out there
Yeah.
than Guesty. But so what was the primary reason why you shifted from Guesty to HostAway?
Yeah, price, to be honest
Price.
with you, right? I
Right.
mean, I was paying them for years, and they're great. They do everything that they promise they do. They have an extensive connection capability to so many things. I mean, nothing, again, like you said, nothing against them. They've done a great job. They have a great product. But then I quickly realized there are other great products that are cheaper, that you can still scale with, a little bit more user friendly. And when it comes to price, although we could pay the amount, it was almost of like every new product that they were rolling out, I had to pay for, right?
Right.
And so I was like adding on to everything, And so, at that point, you try to simplify things, right? You're not trying to complicate everything and connect, 100 different things, and then you don't know what you're doing anymore. And so we just found that HostAway was kind of just more aligned with that. I HostAway, obviously it's a lot cheaper. They still had the same capabilities. I was able to get rid of, actually, we were using a company called Breezeway for our cleanings and our maintenance. HostAway eliminated that company
Yeah.
completely. So I was just focusing, on maintenance, and they have like a kind of like a ticket system that we can work with, and it eliminated a lot for us, and it just simplified everything, and still had the power to drive everything that we were doing. Um, and so yeah, that's primarily why we left Gussie. But again, great company. They could do a lot of things. I just found a better option for us that fit, what we were looking to do.
Yeah, awesome. Because we did the same thing. Now, um, again, just to give a little history on our company, when I started my company, all of these companies didn't exist, right?
Yeah,
So here's an interesting fact: Guesty, or the owners of Guesty, were I contracted them to create my PMS system.
I remember when I spoke to you, you told me you created your own, and I was like, how did this guy create
Yeah,
his own?
yeah. So they wrote out my PMS system,
Wow.
and it was the catalyst to what Guesty is today, right? But here's why I left Guesty. And again, the system was set up specifically for us. So it had everything we needed. But you said a key word and when you were talking about the difference. One of the things that I realized was that it was too complicated. I really
Yeah.
needed to be simplified because I'm not the one doing it, which means I have to hire someone to operate it. And if that person left the company, it was taking me a couple of months to retrain
Crazy.
the next person in my PMS system. I
Wow.
now use not Hostaway, I use Hostfully. And
Okay.
Hostfully, when we made the switch, and again, for me, it was a big switch because I'm like, this is my personal PMS system, right? That I own, which is the biggest thing. But when I switched, I, I can't tell you how much money I saved, not only in like paying for the service, but I saved tons. On the back end, I saved a lot more money, and we became more efficient because the
Hmm.
system was so easy to use.
Yeah.
And simplification in any large operation is key. Okay. So great lesson. And I'm glad you realized it, just like many other people
Yeah.
realized it later on. And I know it was a difficult decision because to transfer everything over, it doesn't happen
Yeah.
overnight.
Not at
So,
all. Well, it just happened recently, and my my wife was like, "Man, you're crazy for doing it right now," because it was in the middle basically at the
summer.
end of her. Yeah, no, it was at the end of her pregnancy, and so
Ah,
she was about to give birth, and here I am switching over an entire operation and the whole system, and but I was like, "Man, we need to do it because this is going to make our life so much easier. It's going to simplify everything. I know it's difficult now, but it's going to be worth it, and it has been. It's been easy."
yeah, awesome. I applaud you on that too to make that decision because it's an important decision. Now, so that's your PMS system. You already mentioned the company that handles your locks, right? And your so is there what other tech stack do you have on your that you're currently using?
Yeah, so right now it's Hostaway, it's Jervis for the locks, Top Key for our financials, and then we have an accountant that does, for the entire operation. Um, we use what do we use? So we use Price Labs for pricing, and then we just started. Um, so we were using a company called IntelliHost. I don't know if you heard of them.
Yeah,
And so in Telehost, we were using them for kind of just the data, right? And testing, A and B testing with photos, the verbiage that we're putting on the listings, seeing the difference. And then they rolled out a program called Revenue IQ, which they handle basically for the first 90 days out of your listing, the calendar, the revenue. And so, we ended up using them, and we saw a huge increase in revenue. They've done a great job at handling it for a very, very minimal amount. Um, And so we saw kind of the worth of it. Like I said, we're a family-run business. It's my wife and I practically running it from here, and then we have the boots on the ground over there that's doing the maintenance and things like that. But as we're growing, right, we just saw it easy for us to just hire someone to basically do the pricing, and obviously we keep an eye on it and we just manage that. But they've done a great job. So IntelliHost for that, which they connect to Price Labs, and that's how they manage everything. Um, yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm not too sure if there's anything else from here, but
Are you using any? So what are you using? Oh, let me backtrack. Are you using any noise detectors?
yeah. So a minute, right, is a big one, right? We put them in our properties. We have them monitoring the noise. Which again, although we've attracted kind of like if you want to say a party crowd, right? We've never had issues with that, right? We've never had um, issues with craziness, going on like you hear all the time on the news or in South Florida a lot. But I guess we've just attracted the right crowd. So yeah, we use Manute for that.
How about do you guys have a centralized camera system or security system?
Yeah, so we use right now we use Ring. I'm looking into other. I forgot what it was called. Another company that's it's fairly cheap, right? Has great cameras, and I can hook it up to our system and just overall see every single one. But yeah, right now we're using Ring. Another one that we're using is StayFi to collect emails.
I was going to
So
ask you
that
that.
goes
Yes.
in. Yeah, that goes into the marketing, right? That's been a huge game changer for us. It's just marketing when we took marketing serious, right? And so I know you mentioned before, what can you do to stand out, right? Um, you know, just like any business, right? You don't want to rely on one source, right? Like I don't only want to be on Airbnb. I don't only want to be on VRBO. I want to control the financials as much as I can. And so we started taking marketing seriously. I don't have a business background. I did not graduate with a degree. My family has not come from a long line of people that own the business. But through connecting with people, and people pouring into us and teaching us. But yeah, so we use StayFi. We market to people that book our properties. We capture their emails. We have a whole funnel, right, that we designed ourselves. Um, and so that's been a huge one. So we went from, I want to say 2022 to 2023, we were doing only about 10% direct bookings. And now this year we're about 24%, almost 25.
Dang.
Yeah.
Good for you,
So it's
buddy.
been a huge thing. That and social media really boosted a lot of the direct bookings.
We're going to dive deep into marketing, and I'm assuming with this next question, marketing is, some of the methods you're using to market is going to come into play. But you touch on a couple of things, and I want to expand on that. And what are you doing to maintain? Well, let me ask you this: what KPIs or key performance indicators that you're tracking, or that you're currently tracking to help keep your occupancy up?
Yeah. So I mean, you know, we focus on um, we focus on the groups that are coming in, and so um, once we have events, I mean, South Florida is full of events, right? I mean, we have one like every month, every week. Even now during slow season, right? I mean, or what people would say is a slow season in South Florida. A lot of our Miami properties are practically packed all month. I mean, I have one property, for example, that has maybe 4 days left to book, in the whole month, and so it maintains a high occupancy rate. Um, but yeah, we definitely track local events, especially for the parties. And what happens is we have a kind of like a funnel where if somebody books one of our properties, let's say in the winter time, um, then they have a specific funnel that they go into so that they can come back during summer, right? And we start showing them like, hey, these are the summer events. I know you enjoyed it in winter, but look at everything that happens during the summer. These
Loving
are the
it.
things that you can enjoy. Your family. If there's another birthday, come during summer, and we could do this for you. We could do this, and And so, that's been a huge one with StayFi, and then email marketing, email blast, signing up people through our website. That was a huge one. Um, we got a lot of signups so one of our videos went viral. It did 2.2 million views, I think it was. A bunch of comments, a bunch of things, and so from there we actually got a huge influx of emails. Um, Another one has been when we work with content creators in South Florida. It's a huge thing for us, and that's a whole different story. But how we got into that and the lessons we've learned was a lot. um, yeah,
Touch into that because I've done that. I've worked and I made some mistakes using content
yeah,
creators, but now I got that honed in and we use that a lot. In fact, that's how I got the idea to do or expand my marketing. That's one of the reasons why this podcast came about was because of that. And now we're getting hired to go visit properties. Like I said, I'm going to Amsterdam. I'm going to Alabama. There's a great project there, and I'm also finding opportunities. For example, the Alabama project, they originally contacted us to do some social media marketing for them, but when I started talking to the owner, I loved the concept, and I asked if I could be a partner in that deal, and
yeah,
he,
wow,
and he agreed. So now we got the one in Alabama. And I owned a good amount of property in South Georgia, and we're going to take that same concept and put it into my properties in South Georgia. But
wow.
dive into that. How did you come about with social media, using social media influencers? What lessons did you learn? Can you expand on that?
Yeah, so I mean, when we first started, we were, again, I'm personally, you probably won't find me on social media. It's probably a bad thing on my end, right? Like you need a personal brand. I've been a private person my whole life, and I just want to keep my family, private. But the point is that that's my background, right? I never cared for social media, but I have a business. I run a business. I have partners. I need to produce, right? We need to drive revenue, and social media is. I mean, if you're not on it, you're kind of like nowhere, right? You need to be on it some way or some form, and so we started off again because of that background, just posting pictures. That was it. No videos, nothing until we started to do reels, right? We started then to connect with social media influencers in South Florida. That's a huge thing, right? There's a bunch of influencers walking around. You go to the coffee shop, there's like 30 of them lined up, right? They're all social media influencers. That's all they do. But what we found is that influencers themselves don't have a lot of uh, offering to people who are in short-term rentals, right?
Right.
You're, they have an audience, right? They have an audience, especially the women, right? They have an audience where they're posting their bikinis all day. They're posting that they're on the boat all day. All these things, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to drive you bookings, right? And so what we found is the ones that have been the most beneficial for us are actually the ones with a small following, the ones that are great at taking shots, the ones that are great at videography, right? But they have maybe 2,000, 3,000, 10,000 at most, but they're really good with a camera. They're really good at angles, and they're humble people that, will take a 2 to 3 night stay and do a bunch of content for you, versus working with influencers. It was the opposite. It was like, oh, I have 3 million followers. I'll give you one reel, I'll give you 10 pictures and 2 posts on my stories. I'm like, man, that does nothing for me.
Nothing. Yeah.
Your 3 million followers are not going to do anything for me. But the guy with 10,000 that knows how to take angles and all of that, like, it's worked wonders for us. And so that's been a huge um, driving factor to our Instagram, our website, the pictures that we have on our website, all of that. It's really boosted it to where now we use the same content for emails, we use the same content for social media, we use the same content, when people are booking our properties for example, on a website like Peerspace, um, you know, and so that's kind of the biggest lesson we learned. Where there's a big difference between an influencer and a content creator. Those are two different people. You want to work with content creators, not influencers.
Yeah, no, I love that. What and I'm going to add to that because what we learned as well is um, make sure that you're working someone that has an audience that fits your avatar. So like you in the beginning, I was working with influencers that had massive followings, but in hindsight being 2020, that was a mistake because those followers were not my avatar. They were never going to book my properties. When
Yeah,
we flipped it and started working with smaller content creators that were in my space, they were travel influencers, not just an influencers. They're specifically travel influencers,
yeah,
and specifically those influencers were targeting people that wanted to travel in my areas, Colombia, Portugal, Spain, and South Florida. Those are the ones I wanted to target because that's where my property is. If they're going to drive the traffic that I need to get
yeah,
that and it's like you, it's worked very well for me. My direct bookings are where I want it to be. Actually, I take it back. I really would love to have 100% direct booking, but we're at about 42% of our
nice,
bookings
man,
from direct booking. Um,
awesome.
and we, I'm happy with that medium between 40 and 50%. Because again, like you, I don't want to be reliant on any OTA and I want to control the narrative. And
Yeah,
when they book directly through my website, I control the narrative. So very good on you on that. Um, and, and besides, okay, we talked about you using social media to market your property. We talked about your email list, which I think is huge. That's for me, so huge about because I do the same thing. We started building our email list way back in 2017. We currently, let me see if I can see the stats. We
yeah,
currently
that was
have
a huge game changer.
we currently have 875,000 people on our
Wow,
email distribution list, right?
crazy.
Um, and that's why my direct booking is high. And then one of the reasons why this also grew and why we're doing really well with our email distribution list is because we also bought a travel agency. With that
Mm,
travel agency, because I wanted to be a one-stop shop. If you
yeah,
want plane tickets, you can come to us. If you're going on a cruise, we can not only have you stay in our property while you're waiting for your cruise, but then we can sell you the cruise. So
mm,
I wanted everything related to travel. And I know when we met, I think I explained to you for you to do the same to expand. Like back then,
yeah,
my acquisition was a cleaning company. Then we acquired the landscaping company. Then we acquired the pest control company. I wanted everything related to my properties. I wanted like a technical. I mean, what do you call it? An octopus leg? Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
A tentacle.
Anyways, yeah. I wanted a footprint and everything related to my properties. And then when I became a property manager for other people, I also wanted to service my owners and the aspect of looking for more investment. We have a venture capital group where we raise funds and we buy. This is where we're getting the money, or where we got the money for the project in Colombia. We're getting
Mm,
the money for the project in Georgia. So I wanted to be involved in a little bit in all of that. But again, what's really important here is having that email distribution list. And I'll close by saying this, because we before we got on, we talked about we want to build something to maybe later on sell, right?
yeah,
What makes your company, what raises your EBITDA on your company, what raises the value in your company is that email list or that customer list, that email
yeah,
distribution list. The larger it is, the more your company is worth. So keep building that. I applaud you for doing that. Again, super impressed with what you guys are doing. Let's.
Thank you.
I got a few more questions, unless you want to add something else to that.
No, I mean, to your point, right? I forgot the company name, and I want to look it up and see if I can send it to you. But there was someone, I think they're in Texas. So, I forgot the name. I'll find it, but they just sold, right? They have about 5, 6 cabins, I think, on a lake, and they sold their entire company. But the interesting part is that they sold it for millions, right? A couple million. But I think it was like 2 million out of that deal was specifically because of their social media and email list.
Yeah.
And so it's crazy how their valuation increased that much because of their marketing on social media, their email list, and all of that. It's crazy.
No, it's insane. It's insane, and again, it's you added the social media component to it, and this is why I tell all my business owners, whether you're like me, that I like to be in front of the camera, or you're like Matthew, that doesn't like to be in front of the camera, it's irrelevant. You
Yeah.
have to have a footprint. So either
Yep.
get somebody to do it, or do it yourself. But you need a social media footprint today. That is your credibility. That is what people look at to see whether or not there's any credibility behind your brand. So yeah, good on you. Um, let's
Thank you.
talk. Let's talk a little bit about guests and guest experiences. The first thing I want to talk about is, how do you guys deal with guest reviews, especially if the reviews are bad?
Yeah, so I mean, you know, like the saying goes, right? There's always two sides to the story, and so, you know, what I probably wouldn't do, and what we haven't done, is just completely dismiss, right, someone's review. If they say, "Hey, this was bad," this was, you know, obviously you take it with a grain of salt. But what we've done is we've really looked into it, right? And if they have a point, then obviously you own up to it, right? I'm not someone who runs away from things or tries to deflect things on other people. And so, you know, if we messed up on a check-in or we messed up on these things, then we love to leave notes, you know, and respond to reviews and say, "Hey, you know, our team does a great job. You know, we pride ourselves in these things, but we do take them serious, right? We never run away from them, and you know, obviously, if they're just retaliating and things like that, then that's a different story. But we do tend to look into them a lot and take them very serious and improve, right? Feedback is always good, right? I never like to run away from feedback, right? I think it's all good. Right? It's all for the benefit of your business, right? When I first started out, I was messing up on check-ins. Right now, I don't. Now I have a system in place where it's virtually impossible for me to mess up on a check-in. Right, but if it wasn't for that first person saying this was a bad check-in, you know, I would never have improved. Probably, you know, I would have just kept writing it like that and never done anything about it. But because we welcome the feedback, you know, we've been able to improve, and so now we're just at a place where, um, you know, we've done a great job with check-ins during the stay, after the stay, following up with people, making sure that they're okay. You know, things like, you know, pre-stocking a fridge, because we understand that that's the person that books our property. That's what they like, right? Because of feedback that we've received in the past, and so you know, making things simpler, all because of the feedback that we've received, you know, throughout the years that we've been doing this. So yeah, we definitely welcome, you know, reviews, and even if they're bad, you know, we look into it and yeah.
Yeah, great point. And we spend. Uh, I was fortunate that I understood that component of the business very early on, and I think, and for us, it's a priority. It's one of the top three things that we focus in, is that the reviews. And the reason, and you hit a lot of the points as to why you should focus on reviews. Um, and although we have a phrase here that we're never going to please 100% of the people, but we're going to strive to please 99.9% of the people, right?
Yeah.
So, so if, but like you, if I get a bad review, um, our policy for my staff is the following: if it's the first time we hear about something, don't even worry about it. If it's the second time we hear about the same, or have the same complaint, now we need to pay attention to it. But a third time, it's an issue. should
Yeah,
never get to that number three, right?
that's
So
good.
that's how we categorize complaints. We actually put them in categories when it comes into the review itself. Like I'm going to give you, and then the other thing we separate is what's opinion and what's fact. So, for example, um, a lot of people give us stuff that's beyond our control. Oh, it rained the entire time I stayed in South Florida. I can't control that, right?
Yeah,
So that doesn't get categorized because it's beyond our control. But stuff that are within our control. So, for example, if we get multiple complaints that the bed is uncomfortable, well, people, that's an issue. Change the freaking
yeah,
bed, right? If we get multiple complaints, like here's one complaint that we get a lot of that currently we can't change, uh, and we're getting less of them because people are starting to get used to it. I think we were one of the first in the industry to start doing guest verifications. We started doing guest verification back in 2001. And our guest verification process takes place outside of the Airbnb platform. Just using Airbnb as one example. But it requires, regardless of where that guest comes from, it requires that the guest conduct a background check. And our background check means they have to submit a selfie with their credit card. And all we need to do is see is the last four of the credit card, but that selfie with that credit card and a copy of their government issue ID or passport, right? We need that. Man, in the beginning, we would get a lot of complaints. Why do we have to do this? This is, I never have to do this in any other place. I mean, that was a big hurdle. And so that's an example of a complaint that you may have to suck it up for a while until the industry
yeah,
catches up. Today, more and more people are doing it. So guests are starting to get comfortable with that process. And the way we always explained it, the other thing is that we always required a deposit, a security deposit. Um, so the way we overcame that and our response in our reviews whenever people complained about it, we always said that our properties are professionally managed by a property management company. And just like if you stayed at a Marriott or you booked a car, they're going to require at time of check-in verification of ID, your credit card, and they're going to hold a deposit.
yeah,
We're just following industry standards. That's how we always replied. Even when we got the negative review, we added that reply to it so that people could understand if you book our properties, we are professionals. And as professionals,
yeah,
we require these things, right? So, but yeah, I mean, you have to make this review process a priority because it will help you both as a company to learn and grow, but it'll also help the guests in the long run as to what they should expect going forward when people are reading this review, because people do read
yeah,
all these reviews. So,
for sure.
and
That's
then
good.
the last thing about question I have in terms of reviews, what do you guys, if you get a bad review that isn't justified, do you guys have a process on how to review to remove them?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, if it's something not justified, if it's like, if it's something that has nothing to do with anything, or they're just flat out lying, or then yeah, we'll have it removed, and we'll call whatever platform it is, and explain the situation, right? What we try not to do is just because it's gonna maybe for example, right? Like a really long time ago, um, we had a guest once that was like in the reviews. She was like, "Man, everything was great," but she dinged us because we had fake plants, right? And so she was like, "I sell real ones. They gave me anxiety." And I'm like, "Man, like that has nothing to do, with so many things, right?" And so, yeah, I mean, if there are ones like that are like, man, it really hurts us because we put a lot of pride and joy into this, right? We love hosting families. Like I explained earlier, we tend to host groups for their birthdays, like we pride ourselves in that, but if you're just gonna out of being upset or again, we're in South Florida, so I've had complaints like you mentioned, right? The entire time I was there, it was raining. It's like, man, I can't do anything about that,
Yeah.
or the second day after the storm, there was grass in the pool, right? Which is normal. So we jump on it. We see a storm coming. We already know. We call the pool guy. Hey, man, I need you, on your toes with us. Obviously we need to clean it up, right? I'm not going to leave you there, right? But things happen, right? And so you try to take it with a grain of salt. Not get offended, right? I'm not here to just. If I get offended at everything everyone says, man, we'll be in depression all day, right? I mean,
Yeah.
people say things that are outrageous. You just got to take it on the chin, man. Like you said, you got a process in place. Let's look into it. Is this a real issue? Let's take care of it. Let's solve it, right? If it's not, let's keep moving. Next guest, let's make their stay even better. Let's welcome these people back, to maybe make up for whatever happened, so yeah, that's kind of what we do.
Yeah, no, awesome. I know, I hear you. Okay, so we're almost done. I mean, I can talk to you forever because again,
Yeah,
um, it's really a privilege for me to speak to short-term rental operators like yourself, especially when I seen your growth, especially when I seen when you started and to where you are today. I mean,
yeah,
I really love it. So I'm going to close with these next two questions. This first one is: what advice would you give someone starting out today in the short-term rental industry?
yeah. I would probably say, and this is coming from someone who doesn't have a business background. I did not grow up in business, business or anything like that. I would tell you to connect with people, right? I mean, the day it was funny enough, right? Um, the one who connected, at least between us, was you. You reached out to me, right? And I wish I would have learned to reach out more. Right now, I know the value of connecting with someone, uh, and someone that just would randomly share, "This is what I do for our finances," and that'll solve my issue in 2 seconds, and if I asked or talked or whatever, like, and so I would definitely recommend them to connect with people, operators that have been doing this for a while. They'll save you so much headache, so much battles that you go through, dealing with guests, the tech stack, how to deal with certain things, how to avoid certain things, like all of that. You could avoid it if you just connect with people, you talk to people, some like yourself, looking at YouTube channels, podcasts, things that you have, connecting with people like yourself that'll do it. And I've been doing it for a while, and can tell you, hey man, you want to go more direct bookings, learn to grow that email list. It's not just about a website. It's not, a lot of people do that. I want to do direct bookings. Let me just put up a website. It's not that. Get that email list going, reach out to people, connect yourself with travel agencies, right? Realtors, go out and meet people. Do like if someone would just tell me that from the beginning, I would have been doing it a long time ago. So I would say, yeah, connect with people that have been doing this. Don't be afraid to ask. You know, you meet people like us, like our open books. I'll share everything. I don't mind. I'm not trying to gatekeep things. Like it's not me. So
No,
yeah.
thank you. Thank you for sharing that insight. Last question. Where do you see the future of the short-term rental industry going, especially in Miami?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Miami specifically, I know they're building a lot of units. This is another reason why I got a rental arbitrage. There's a lot because our mayor, right, has done a good job at bringing in tech companies, right? These companies are huge, and they're going to attract crazy amount of investors, right? And for that reason, there's a lot of high rises being built with a license to short term lease your apartment. That's going to cut rental arbitrage operators a lot, right? Once these high rises are built, and these investors buy these properties that they're going to spend maybe a couple of days out of the year, you know, um, it's going to leave rental arbitrage in Miami in a tight spot. Um, so I think at least in South Florida, Miami, you definitely going to have to do more than just provide a bed, right? It's going to be an experience. You hit it on the head with a one-stop shop, right? I want the guy that's going to book me my place, book my boat,
Yep.
book my car, I don't want to be dealing with five different types of businesses. I want one guy. When I come to Miami, I have a place to rest my head. My car's taken care of. I have the best restaurants around the corner. Um, I'm celebrating a birthday, so they'll do this for me. I can get the boat from them. Like, I think I think that's kind of where we're heading, right? Where you got to just do more than a bed. It can't just be a bed and a kitchen. Um, it has to be an experience where it's worth coming to your property, right? It's worth, even though, and I say this, because I'm telling you right now, we're not the cheapest in our neighborhood, right? Like, you're not like, I'm not fighting people on prices. I'm not getting guests, or my calendar is not booked because I'm necessarily slashing my prices, right? I'm most of the time I'm the most expensive in the neighborhood, right? But you're getting quality, right? You're a one-stop shop, and people like that, right? I mean, people don't want to bounce around to different. So I think at least in South Florida, that's kind of where we're headed. Where you got to be that one-stop shop. People got to look to you and be like, he knows everything, he has everything. Why deal with anyone else?
No,
Even if it's at a premium.
yeah, yeah. People don't mind paying. They're not going to
No.
mind paying. It's like I always said. And I use this more with my travel agency. We're not going to probably be the cheapest, but you're definitely going to get the greatest value by using
Yeah,
us.
for sure.
So 100%. I understand what you mean. Um, Matthew, where can people find you?
Yeah. So on Instagram, at Tilah Stays, Tilah Stays. Yeah, people can find us there. See the properties that we manage. Talk to us. I mean, again, we don't gatekeep anything, so anyone can reach out to us, and we're more than willing to chat and have a conversation.
Awesome, guys. Highly, highly, highly recommend, if you are in the South Florida area or planning to come to the South Florida area and you need a great place to stay, look these guys up. I can tell you from firsthand experience, they're first class. They got some phenomenal properties. Check them out on Instagram. So this is going to conclude this. Guys, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. Follow me on Instagram. Hit the notification bell for future podcasts. Love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.